In 2016, archaeologists working in a cave in Siberia pulled something out of the dirt that stopped them cold. A needle, made from the bone of a giant bird, 61 millimeters long, still sharp enough to sew with today. It was 50,000 years old, which means that 50,000 years ago, someone sat down and spent hours carving a tool with one single purpose: to make clothing. Not to survive. They already had fur. To make something specific, something chosen, something that looked a certain way. That needle is the oldest fashion statement ever found, and what it tells us about that person is extraordinary. But before we get to what they were making, we need to talk about something stranger. We need to talk about lice. There is a parasite that lives in the seams of clothing, feeds on skin, and lays its eggs in fabric. It's called the body louse. It doesn't exist on any other animal. It evolved specifically for humans, specifically for clothing, which means the moment scientists traced when body lice first split from head lice, they accidentally discovered when humans first started wearing clothes regularly enough for a new species to depend on it. The answer was staggering. Humans had been wearing clothing for over 100,000 years before that Siberian needle was ever carved, which immediately creates a problem. If humans were wearing clothes that long before they invented the tools to sew, what exactly were they wearing? And more importantly, why were they wearing anything at all? Scientists thought they had the answer to that second question. They were wrong. Here's where everything changes. Every textbook will tell you the same thing. Ancient humans started wearing clothes to survive the cold. It's logical. It's obvious. It fits the story we tell ourselves about our ancestors. Practical, focused on survival, doing what they had to do. Except when researchers looked at where the earliest clothing evidence actually comes from: the scrapers, the pigments, the beads, the animal bones. It wasn't from frozen tundra or mountain caves. It was from Africa, from environments where the temperature was perfectly manageable without any covering at all. Let that settle for a second. The first outfit was not made because anyone was cold. The oldest evidence of deliberate body covering comes from places where surviving without clothing was entirely possible, which means the entire foundation of how we explain the origin of clothing, the survival story, the cold weather story, the practical necessity story, is probably wrong. Something else drove the first human to pick up an animal skin and put it on. And that something else is the real mystery this video is trying to solve. We're still missing the most important piece. The real answer starts not with survival, but with a stone. Not a weapon, not a tool for cutting food, a scraper, a flat, carefully worked piece of flint designed for one specific task: removing flesh and fat from the inside of an animal hide without puncturing it. Archaeologists have found these scrapers at African sites dating back hundreds of thousands of years. Their only practical use is preparing skin to be worn, which means clothing, or at least the deliberate preparation of material to cover the body, is far older than anyone originally assumed. But knowing they made clothing still doesn't explain why they wanted it. Then archaeologists found something unexpected. The oldest clothing evidence doesn't appear alone. It appears alongside something else entirely. Ochre pigment, used to color things red, found at the same sites as the earliest hide scrapers. Shell beads with deliberate holes drilled through them for threading, found in Morocco. Eagle talons with precise cut marks arranged in a specific pattern in Croatia. Worn, not eaten. These are not survival objects. These are statements, decoration, identity. The very first clothing wasn't just covering it, it was communication. Every outfit ever worn in the history of human civilization has been saying something. This is who I am. This is what group I belong to. This is my status. This is what I believe. That communication didn't start with fabric or thread or dye. It started with an eagle talon on a string around someone's neck in a cave over 100,000 years ago. It sounds like we've solved it. Clothing started as communication, not survival. We haven't solved it, because that raises an even harder question. Why did early humans feel the need to communicate anything at all through what they wore? What was happening socially and between people, between groups, that made appearance suddenly matter enough to spend hours preparing a hide and decorating it? That question leads somewhere that changes how you think about the entire arc of human history. But first, we need to talk about what the first outfit actually looked like. Here's where the real surprise comes. The hides were scraped clean and softened until pliable, cut into shapes using stone blades, fastened with sinew, dried tendon, or with thorns used as primitive pins. Simple, rough, but deliberate. Someone decided what it covered. Someone decided where the edges went. That decision was not random. And then the needle arrived, and everything changed. The Denisovan needle found in that Siberian cave is so precisely made that archaeologists initially assumed it was from a much later period. The hole at one end is smaller than a modern sewing needle. It required a level of fine motor control and patient craftsmanship that researchers did not expect to find that far back. Whoever made it was not just surviving. They were practicing a craft. They had a standard. They worked until they had something good enough. What nobody expected was what came next. Around the same time the needle appears, needles of different sizes appear, which means different types of stitching, different types of garments for different purposes. A small needle for fine stitches in thin material, a large needle for heavy hide. Someone understood that distinction. They had a toolkit, a practice, in every meaningful sense, a craft tradition. And craft traditions don't appear from nowhere. They are passed down, taught, refined. Which means behind that needle in the Siberian cave are thousands of years of people learning from each other, improving on each other, handing the knowledge forward. The needle is just the moment that knowledge became precise enough to leave a mark that survived. But that still doesn't fully answer the original question. Knowing how they made clothes isn't the same as knowing why they started wearing them. The strangest part was still ahead. In cultures that maintained continuity with ancient clothing traditions, communities in the Arctic, the Andes, Central Asia, anthropologists found something consistent. Clothing was never purely functional. Every group that made clothing from animal hide also decorated it. Paint, beads, fringe, symbols pressed into the surface. Even in the harshest environments where every calorie and every hour mattered, people spent time making their clothing mean something. That is the answer. Not cold, not survival, meaning. The through line from that eagle talon 130,000 years ago to the needle in Siberia to every piece of clothing anyone has ever put on their body since is the same impulse. The need to communicate something to the people around you. Who you are, what you belong to, what you value, what you want to be seen as. Clothing was never about the body, it was always about other people. The first outfit was almost certainly a rough animal hide, scraped clean, shaped by hand, fastened with sinew, colored with ochre, that red pigment ancient humans returned to again and again across hundreds of thousands of years. Simple by any modern standard, but chosen. Deliberately, consciously chosen by a human being who understood that how you appear to other people is not a small thing. That understanding is still running in you right now. Every morning when you get dressed. Every time you choose one thing over another without quite knowing why. Every time clothing makes you feel like more yourself or less yourself. That instinct is ancient. It has been part of what it means to be human for longer than language, longer than agriculture, longer than any civilization that has ever existed. The needle in that Siberian cave is 50,000 years old, and the person who made it was doing exactly what you did this morning. Deciding how to show up, deciding what to say without speaking, deciding in the oldest way our species knows how,